What's up guys, my name is Ace, and a lot of other COD YouTubers have been doing their Call of Duty 2017 wish list, what they want to see in the next Call of Duty, and I've had lots of people asking me, where's my wish list? So today, we're going to be going over that. Let's get into it. Alright guys, so hopping into this, we're going into it with a major assumption, and that is, this game is going to be boots on the ground. Now, it's been already more or less confirmed, not necessarily like 100% confirmation yet, but it looks like we're going to see boots on the ground this year, and I am quite happy to see that, partially just for a change of pace, and partially also just to see how the community reacts to it after having several years of advanced movement. So just know, going into this wish list, I am going to be focusing everything around a boots on the ground Call of Duty. So with that in mind, I would love to see the slide return. Take away the wall runs, take away the boost jumps, that's fine, but I want to keep that slide mechanic in the game. I think it plays out very well with boots on the ground. It did in Ghosts, so why not keep it for this game? In addition to that, I would like to see either unlimited sprint or at least a really long sprinting time before you run out of breath and have to catch your breath a little bit. Going back to playing Modern Warfare Remastered, for instance, I feel like it just holds you back so much from being aggressive, and it slows the overall pace of the game down, and I don't like that. I think they should still be aiming for a relatively fast-paced game, while still maintaining boots on the ground. On that same note of pacing, I feel like sprint out times should also be relatively fast in this game. Now obviously, I think SMGs should be faster than assault rifles, which should be faster than LMGs, but overall I would like to see decently fast sprint out times, because the slower your sprint out times are, the slower the pace of the game goes, because people are encouraged to sit behind cover and pre-aim things, and they're discouraged from moving around and trying to push up around the map. This can be seen very clearly if you compare something like Modern Warfare Remastered to Black Ops 2. With Modern Warfare Remastered, you have very slow sprint out times, even for SMGs, and therefore you feel very limited when you're trying to push around the map and be aggressive. Now yes, it does force you to play more tactically, but it also just slows the overall pace of the game down, and it rewards those people that just sit and camp in one spot while aiming down sight. So keep those sprint out times fast and encourage that movement while discouraging those people from sitting in a corner. Now also somewhat related to pace, but getting into a new section here, this is map design. Map design plays a huge role in the pace of the game and the overall gameplay experience, and what I would like to see in the map design is primarily mid-sized 3-laned maps. Now, I know that's not for everyone, and some people are definitely going to disagree with me here, but I feel like the 3-lane map design is a winning formula, and the mid-sized ones usually offer a nice mix of faster pace, while also not being constantly overwhelmed by what's going on around you. That's not to say that I don't think we should have a couple like really large maps, and maybe one really small like Nuketown-ish map. I just feel the majority of them should definitely be that mid-sized map design. In addition to this with map design, I would like to see a few more open maps with less buildings or less overhead cover. Now of course I do feel like there should be buildings scattered around the maps where you have an option of getting to some cover if someone calls like an aerial streak in, but at the same time, in a lot of the recent Call of Duty games, I feel like there's been maybe too many buildings, and it's made aerial streaks next to useless on a lot of maps. And this is where we're going to transition into score streaks. I would like to see decently powerful, yet counterable score streaks in this next Call of Duty game. I think the mid-range streaks where you're dropping either like lightning strikes or hellstorms or bombardment, scorchers, whatever you want to call them, any one of those streaks, I feel like there should be enough warning that if you're near cover, you can get to cover, but if you are caught out in the open, then basically too bad. I think Black Ops 2 ended up nailing this towards the end of its life cycle. If you called a lightning strike in, especially in Domination or something like that, and someone was trying to cap a flag, it was a very effective streak at keeping those flags defended, but if an enemy was near a piece of cover, they did have enough time to react and get out of the way. It's very difficult to find that balance with those streaks, but I really hope they do manage to find that balance. In addition to this, when we're looking at the higher streaks, I feel like you should feel rewarded when you call a high streak in, and I don't think you should feel like it might be a waste of your time to even call it in. I've been feeling that a lot lately with a lot of the recent Call of Duty games. When I call a Thor in, for instance, in Infinite Warfare, on most of the maps at least, I feel like I might get 4, maybe 5 kills, something along those lines, and it also takes me out of the fight for 45 seconds to a minute or something like that. And I feel like it's not really that rewarding because I could be getting that many kills on my feet with my gun in that amount of time. I feel like if you earn that highest streak in the game, It should absolutely be feared, and it should have the potential of dropping tons and tons of kills for you if your enemies refuse to use the counter to it. I feel like Black Ops 2 Swarm absolutely nailed this. If you wanted to avoid it, put on Blind Eye, stay away from your teammates. It's as simple as that. But a lot of people refuse to do that, and therefore, I feel they deserve to die. They allowed the enemy team to get that super high streak, and therefore, they should be punished and he should be rewarded. That's just my personal opinion. I know some people don't like powerful streaks, but as long as there's a proper counter to them, I think they should be powerful. Another thing I'd like to mention with score streaks, since we are going into a Sledgehammer Call of Duty, I hope they don't do the module system with the score streaks. I think it was a neat idea on paper in Advanced Warfare, but it didn't really play out as well as a lot of people would have hoped. I think it's much better to just keep it simple with score streaks. Getting into the next thing that I guess I haven't mentioned yet, but it's one of the more major things for a lot of people, but I usually don't care too much about it as long as the gameplay is solid. This is the setting of the game. For me personally, I would love to see a near future Call of Duty this year. I don't want it to be in space, I don't want there to be lasers or anything like that, but also at the same time, I don't want it to be like Vietnam or World War II or even modern day. I'd be okay with modern day, but I like the idea of near future because it grounds things in reality, makes things very relatable, while still giving the developers a little bit of creative freedom with this. As for the class setup system in the game, I hope they stick with Pick 10. I think Pick 10 is nearly a perfect formula for Call of Duty at least. I feel like it's one of those things that really separates Call of Duty from a lot of the other shooters, and I hope they don't mess around with it too much. I know Ghost tried to mess with it, some people really like their system, I didn't at all. I prefer that standard Pick 10 sort of setup. Getting into the next area, this is going to be the more controversial area. This is supply drops. Now, it's no secret, supply drops are going to be here. It's the way of the industry. It's how they're making tons and tons of money. There is no way they're dropping the supply drop system this year. So I'm not going to put it on my wish list that I wish there was no supply drop system because that's just not realistic to expect. Instead, I'm hoping they handle supply drops kind of like either Infinite Warfare or Modern Warfare Remastered. I feel like they've taken the supply drop system in the right direction with these games, because if you really want something, you can just go out and craft it with your salvage or your parts. Just to contrast this with Black Ops 3, you could play that game endlessly and earn lots of supply drops and stuff, and literally never see the gun that you really want to get. In addition to this, you could spend thousands of dollars on supply drops and still literally never see the one gun that you want to get. At least with Infinite Warfare and Modern Warfare Remastered systems, you will be earning salvage, and with that salvage you craft what you actually want. Also, I like how they implemented new guns in Infinite Warfare, at least so far. They made it so all you have to do is complete a challenge and you get the base version of that gun. Now, I'm going to assume this year's Call of Duty will have variants again, because Sledgehammer was actually the first Call of Duty developer to add variants in the game, and I want to talk about those a little bit. I would like to see a variant system that only gives you little bonuses, and if it does give you a little bit of a bigger bonus, it also has a downside attached to it. A rule of thumb that I would love for them to follow is basically give two players guns. The first one gets the base gun, second one gets the same gun, but it's a variant to that gun. The better player should almost always come out on top, regardless of whether he has the base gun or the variant of the gun. I feel like Advanced Warfare really fell short in this area. The base guns, most of the time, had no chance against a lot of the variants. The variants were clearly better than the base in nearly every single gunfight you found yourself in. Whereas something like Infinite Warfare, on average, I'm not saying there aren't exceptions, but on average, the variants give you like a quirky little bonus, or like half of an attachment, or something along those lines. So it gave you that little bit of a feeling of, yeah, this is pretty cool to have, without making the variant significantly better than its base. Now, moving on to the next section, I feel like this is something that's going to be quite important, and I really hope we see it this year. I want to see a truly dedicated competitive playlist. I want this playlist to have the actual rules that the professional players are playing with at that given time, and keep it updated so you're constantly playing with the same rule set as them. I would like the stats to be separate from regular public match stats. I would like the ranking system to actually make sense and also offer some unique rewards like customization type rewards that you can also display in public matches. And to top it all off, I think it would be really cool if they integrated this system into game battles. Make it so you can play within the game itself without having to organize externally or anything. You can play within the game itself to earn points that will actually contribute to potentially attending an event in the future. I know other games do this. I don't know if it's really viable for Call of Duty to do it at this point, but I think it would be a really neat feature to have. I miss those days back in Black Ops 2 where I actually cared about league play, I cared about my ranking, I had a lot of fun, and I could play with the rule set that the pros were actually playing with at the time. I really hope to see that return this year. So finally, the last thing I wanted to mention in this video, and of course there are going to be lots of little minor things that I would still like to see in the game, but obviously I can't cover every little detail that I'd like to see, but the last thing I'm going to be mentioning in this video is an improvement to your networking. Call of Duty is starting to become the laughingstock of the first-person shooter industry at the moment. While they could get away with a 20 Hz tick rate back in the day, that just doesn't cut it anymore. They have fallen way behind a lot of the other games in the industry, and they need to step up their game, and they need to do it soon. Many of the really hardcore players that really care about the game and are really invested in the game are losing confidence because they know that this just doesn't cut it anymore. Sure, they can keep it where it is right now, and they'll still get a lot of those casual players still buying the game because they don't know any better about that. But looking long term, with the growth of esports especially, esports is starting to become more of a household thing where even the casual players are getting involved with it a little bit. Online competitive Call of Duty is pretty much a joke at this point because of this networking system. I strongly feel they need to get on top of this as soon as possible and reinstill confidence in their systems so that they're at least in line with some of the other shooters on the market. I'm really hoping this is going to be the year where they take that big step and make some serious upgrades to this system. I'm not going to hold my breath for that, but it is definitely on my wish list. So there we have it. That's going to wrap it up for my CoD 2017 wish list. Obviously, these are just my opinions. I'd love to know what you guys think in the comment section below. Do you agree? Do you disagree with any of the points that I made? Also, I'd love to hear what your guys' wish lists are down in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.